A Scandal in Bohemia. Only one person ever beat Sherlock Holmes. Irene Adler was that person, and Holmes never forgot her. I was not seeing much of Holmes in those days. After my marriage, I moved to another part of London, while Holmes stayed in our Baker Street rooms. I was also working very hard as a doctor, so I did not often have time to visit him. But one night in March 1888, I was returning home from a visit to a sick woman. As I passed my old rooms, I looked up. There was a light in Holmes's room, and I could see him at work there. He was standing with his hands behind his back and his head down. He was clearly thinking about a new problem. What was he working on now? I decided to visit him and find out. Holmes was standing by the fire, thinking deeply. He did not say anything, so I just sat down. Holmes was always like this when he was thinking about a problem. But I think he was pleased to see me. Finally, he picked up a piece of paper. "Look at this, Watson," he said. "What do you think about this?" I took the paper. It was a note. There was no address, there was no date, and it was not signed. "A man will visit you tonight at 7:45, the note said. "Do not be surprised if he is wearing a mask. He will not tell you his real name. He needs your help with a very important problem. Please do not tell anyone about his visit." "This is a mystery," I said. "What does it mean, Holmes?" "We shall soon see," Holmes answered, looking out of the window. "A carriage has just stopped at our door. It's a beautiful carriage. Our visitor is an important man." A few moments later we heard footsteps outside the door. "Come in," called Holmes. The man who came in was very tall. He was wearing a mask, and his clothes looked foreign. "Did you receive my note?" he asked. He sounded German to me. "Yes," Holmes replied. "Please sit down. This is my friend, Dr. Watson. Your note was not signed. Would you tell me your name?" "You can call me Count von Kram. I am from Bohemia. I have come to ask for your help. But you must not tell anyone about my visit. It has to stay a secret at the request of a king. Can I talk freely in front of your friend?" "Of course," answered Holmes. "Dr. Watson often helps me with my work. You can speak freely. You are, in fact, the king, are you not?" The man jumped from his chair and pulled the mask from his face. "You are quite right," he cried. "I am the king of Bohemia. How did you know?" "It was quite easy," said Holmes. "You have a beautiful carriage with 2 beautiful horses. You are a rich man. It is clear that you are a very important man. But that does not explain. You have come to ask for my help," continued Holmes. "You say that I must not tell anyone about your visit. You talk about the request of a king. You are from Bohemia. I have read in the newspapers that the king of Bohemia is in London at the moment. So I know that you are the king. Please tell me what I can do for you." "These are the facts," began the king. "About 5 years ago I met a lady named Irene Adler. Perhaps her name means something to you?" "I will look at my notes," said Holmes. He went to a case which was full of cards. There were notes about hundreds of people on the cards. After a few moments he pulled out a card. "Irene Adler," he read. "Born in New Jersey in 1858, a singer, La Scala and Warsaw, now living in London." He turned to the king. 5 years ago, Irene Adler was living in Warsaw. Did you meet her there?" "Yes," said the king. "You fell in love and wrote some letters to her. Now you want the lady to return the letters." "Yes, but how?" "Was there a secret marriage?" "No." "Did you sign anything? Any papers?" "None." "Then there is no problem." "But the letters?" "You can say that you did not write them." "She has a photograph," said the king sadly. "Perhaps she bought it." "But we are both in the photograph." "Oh," said Holmes. "That is different. You will have to buy the photograph from her." "I tried to do that, but she refuses to sell it." "Steal it, then." "Twice. I paid men to steal it, but they could not find the photograph in her house." Holmes laughed. "We have quite a problem," he said. "What is the lady going to do with the photograph?" "The King of Scandinavia has a daughter. I am going to marry her. Irene Adler is going to use the photograph to stop the marriage." "I heard that you were going to be married," said Holmes. "How is Irene Adler going to stop you?" "She will send the photograph to the King of Scandinavia. He is afraid of any scandal and will stop the marriage." "And why doesn't Irene Adler want you to marry the king's daughter?" "It is the usual reason. She is in love with me, and she wants me to marry her." "Are you sure that the photograph is not already on its way to Scandinavia?" "I am sure." "Why?" "She is waiting until they print the date of my wedding in the newspapers. That will be next Monday. She will then send the photograph to the king." "Then we have 3 more days," said Holmes. "Are you staying in London?" "Of course. I am staying at the Langham Hotel." "Then I shall write to you there. I shall soon have some news for you. Now, the question of money." "You can name your own price," said the king. "I will give anything to get that photograph." "I shall need some money now," said Holmes. "I shall have to pay for some help." The king took some notes from his pocket and counted them. "There is £1,000, he said. "I hope that will be enough." Holmes took the money. "What is the lady's address?" he asked. "Bryony Lodge, Serpentine Avenue, St. John's Wood." Holmes made a note of it. "One more question," he said. "How big is the photograph?" "It's quite large. It's about 12 inches by 8. "Then good night. I shall have some news for you very soon. And good night, Watson," he added, after the king closed the door. Will you come to see me tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock? I would like your help. The next afternoon at 3 o'clock I went to Baker Street. Holmes was not there, so I waited for him. It was 4 o'clock when the door opened. The man who came in was dressed as a carriage driver. His hair was long, and his face was red. It was Holmes. Without saying a word, he went into his bedroom. 5 minutes later, he came out. His hair was short, his face was clean, and he was wearing his usual clothes. He sat near the fire and laughed. "Well, Watson," he said, "how do you think I spent the day?" "Let me think. You were watching Irene Adler's house." "Yes, I was. I left here at 8 o'clock this morning, dressed as a driver. I soon found Bromley Lodge. It is a large house with a garden at the back. The front of the house is on the road. At the side of the house there are some buildings for carriages and horses. I found a driver there who told me all about Irene Adler." "What did he tell you?" I asked. "She is very beautiful. She lives quietly and sings at concerts. She goes for a drive every day at 5 o'clock, and always returns at 7 o'clock for dinner. Only one man visits her. He is dark and good-looking. He goes to the house every day. His name is Godfrey Norton, and he is a lawyer." "You had a busy day," I said. "That is not all," Holmes continued. "This Godfrey Norton is very important. Why is a lawyer visiting Irene Adler every day? Is he just her lawyer? Or is he a friend? Is he in love with her? If he is just her lawyer, perhaps he is keeping the photograph for her. If they are in love, perhaps she does not want him to see it. Then it is possible that the photograph is in her house. While I was there, a carriage drove up to Bromley Lodge. A dark, good-looking man jumped out. It was clearly Godfrey Norton, and he seemed to be in a great hurry. He shouted to the driver to wait, and then he ran into the house. He stayed there for about half an hour. I could see him through the sitting-room window, but I could not see the woman. Godfrey Norton seemed to be very excited. Then he came out of the house, ran to the carriage, and looked at his watch. "Take me to Regent Street. I have to buy a ring. Then take me to the Church of St. Monica in the Edgware Road," he shouted to the driver. "I'll give you £1 if you get there in 20 minutes. The carriage left," Holmes continued. "Then Irene Adler's own carriage came to the front of the house. Irene Adler came out of the house and got into the carriage. 'The Church of St. Monica, John,' she cried. The carriage left. I decided to follow her. A carriage drove past, and I jumped into it. I arrived at the church and hurried inside. There was nobody there except Irene Adler, Godfrey Norton, and a priest. When I came in, they all looked at me. Godfrey Norton ran over to me. 'Come with me,' he cried. 'We need a witness. It won't take long, only a few minutes.' He then pulled me to the front of the church. There I was, a witness at the wedding of Irene Adler and Godfrey Norton. It did not take long. The man thanked me, and the woman gave me £1. The priest smiled. When I think about it, I have to laugh. They could not marry without a witness, so Sherlock Holmes was their witness. So, they're married, I said. They seemed to be in a great hurry. What was the reason for that? I think that Irene Adler is afraid, replied Holmes thoughtfully. Someone already tried to steal the photograph twice. I think that she decided to marry Norton and to leave England. Surely the king won't hurt her? I asked. I don't know, said Holmes. But she seems to be afraid of him. What did you do after you left the church? I asked. Well, said Holmes, I thought that they were going to leave London. I was very surprised when I heard the woman say to Norton, I shall drive to the park at 5 as usual. They left in different carriages. Now I have to move quickly. Will you help me, Watson? Of course, I said. What do you want me to do? It is nearly 5 o'clock now, Holmes said. In 2 hours we shall be at Bryony Lodge. The woman returns from her drive at 7, and we will be there to meet her. And what then? You will see something which will surprise you, but you must not do anything at first. Is that clear? 4 or 5 minutes later, the sitting room window will open. I want you to stand by that window. And then? Watch me. You will be able to see me. When I lift my hand, like this, I want you to throw something into the room. Then you will shout, fire, fire. Is that all? I asked. Yes, said Holmes. You will throw this into the room. He picked something up. It was made of metal and about 6 inches long. It's a smoke bomb. A smoke bomb? I cried. Is it dangerous? Not at all, smiled Holmes. It will make a lot of smoke, that is all. After you throw it, go to the end of the street. Wait for me there. Holmes went into his bedroom. When he came out, he was dressed as a priest. It was 6:15 when we left Baker Street. We arrived in Serpentine Avenue at 10 minutes to 7. It was getting dark while we waited near Bryony Lodge. I was surprised to see a lot of people there. Some men were standing near the house. 2 policemen were talking to a girl. Some more men were at the corner of the street. At 7 o'clock, Irene Adler's carriage came into the street. It drove to the door of Bryony Lodge. While it was stopping, a man ran towards it. He was clearly going to open the door of the carriage, but one of the policemen pushed him away. A fight started. The second policeman and the other men joined in. Irene Adler was now in the middle of a crowd of fighting men. Holmes pushed into the crowd to help her. When he reached her, he gave a loud cry. He fell to the ground. Blood was running down his face. The fighting stopped and the fighters ran away. The men who were standing at the corner of the street came to help Holmes. "How is he?" cried Irene Adler. "He's dead," someone said. "No, he isn't," said another. "But he's dying." "He's a good man," said the girl who was talking to the policeman earlier. "They were going to steal this lady's bag. He stopped them." "Oh, He's not dead, but he can't lie in the street. She looked at Irene Adler. Can we bring him into the house? Of course, she answered. Bring him into the sitting room. This way, please. Slowly they carried the old priest into Bridal Lodge and into the sitting room. I went to the window. From there I could see Holmes lying in a chair. I remembered his orders and took the smoke bomb from my pocket. Holmes sat up and said something to Irene Adler. The woman hurried to the window and opened it. Holmes then lifted his arm. I threw the smoke bomb into the room and shouted fire. The crowd outside also shouted fire. I then went to the corner of the street, and minutes later Holmes arrived. We started to walk towards Baker Street. You did very well, Watson, he said. The result was excellent. Have you got the photograph? I know what it is. And how did you find it? She showed me. Well, please explain, Holmes. It was quite easy. He laughed. I had paid all those people to help me. I thought so. When the fighting started, I ran towards it. Then I fell to the ground. I had some red paint on my hand. I put my hand on my face while I was falling. The red paint looked like blood. Of course. Then they carried me into the house. She had to let me in. What could she do? And into her sitting room. I knew that the photograph was either in there or in her bedroom. They put me in a chair. I asked her to open the window, and you had your chance. How did that help you? Oh, it was very important. What does a woman do if there is a fire? She tries to save her most important things. A married woman saves her baby. An unmarried woman saves her gold and silver. Now, what was most important to Our Lady? The photograph, of course. It is hidden behind a picture, and she hurried to save it. I saw it when she pulled it out. I then shouted that there was no fire. She put the photograph back, looked at the smoke bomb, and ran out of the room. I don't know where she is now. I was going to take the photograph, but her driver came in. It seemed safer to wait until later. And what now? I asked. Tomorrow we are going to visit the lady. I shall ask the king to come with us. We shall go into the sitting room to wait for her. But when she arrives, we will not be there. The king can take the photograph himself. And what time will you go? At 8 o'clock in the morning. She will be in bed. It will be easy to take the photograph. I will send a message to the king now. By this time we were back in Baker Street. When we reached the door, someone who was passing said, "Good night, Mr. Sherlock Holmes." There were a lot of people in the street at the time. The speaker seemed to be a young man, but he hurried past us. "I know that voice," said Holmes thoughtfully. "Who was it?" I slept at Baker Street that night. We were eating breakfast when the King of Bohemia rushed into the room. "Have you really got the photograph?" he cried. "Not yet," said Holmes. "But you hope to get it?" "I hope so." "Come on then," said the king. "Let us go, my carriage is at the door." A few minutes later we left for Brierley Lodge. "Irene Adler is married," Holmes told the king. "Married? When?" "Yesterday." "But who is she married to?" "To a lawyer named Norton." "But she does not love him." "I hope that she does." "Why is that?" "Because your wedding will be safe. If she loves Norton, she does not love you. If she does not love you, she will not try to stop your wedding." "That's true," said the king. The door of Brierley Lodge was open. An old woman stood on the steps. "Mr. Sherlock Holmes?" she asked. "I am Mr. Holmes," agreed my friend. "Mrs. Norton told me that you were going to come. She left this morning with her husband. They're on their way to France." "What?" cried Holmes. "She has left the country?" "And she will never return." "And the photograph?" cried the king. "Has she taken it?" "We shall see," said Holmes. He pushed past the old woman into the sitting room. The king and I followed him. Holmes went to a painting near the door and turned it over. A photograph and a letter were stuck to the back. The photograph was of Irene Adler in evening dress. On the letter were the words, "To Mr. Sherlock Holmes." My friend opened the letter, and we all read it together. It said, "My dear Mr. Holmes, you were very clever. You discovered where the photograph was. I did not know until I saw the smoke bomb. Someone told me that the king was planning to ask for your help. They even gave me your address. But I did not know that the old priest was really you, Mr. Holmes. When I left the sitting room, I sent my driver to watch you. Then I put on men's clothes. When you left, I followed you to Baker Street. I had to know if it was really you. I was the person who said good night to you. Then I went to meet my husband. We decided that we should leave England now. We do not want to fight you, Mr. Holmes. If we do, you will win in the end. We know that. The king need not be afraid of the photograph. I will not do anything to stop his marriage. I love a better man than him. The king was very unkind to me. Because I am afraid of him, I shall keep the photograph. While I have it, he will not be able to hurt me again. I am leaving another photograph, which he can keep. I am, dear Mr. Sherlock Holmes, yours, Irene Norton. What a woman! Oh, what a woman! Cried the King of Bohemia. She is the right person in so many ways to be a queen. But she is so far below me. There is such a difference between us. Yes, there seems to be a great difference between you, said Holmes coldly. I am sorry that we did not get the photograph for you. My dear Mr. Holmes, cried the king, that is not important. She promised to do nothing. She always keeps her promises. My wedding is safe. I am happy to hear that you can be confident, sir, said Holmes. How can I thank you, Mr. Holmes? Will you take this ring? You have something which I would like much more, said Holmes. Please, name it. Holmes held up the photograph of Irene Adler in evening dress. "This photograph," he said. The king looked very surprised. "Irene's photograph?" he cried. "Of course, if you want it." "Thank you. Then there is nothing more to do. I will say goodbye then." Holmes turned away. Perhaps he did not see the hand that the king held out to him. I returned with Holmes to Baker Street. And so a great scandal almost touched the King of Bohemia, and a woman beat Sherlock Holmes. Before this he often made jokes about the cleverness of women, but he does not laugh about it now.